Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's link number 1 in the description box. Link number 2 is to my private community, where you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. And link number 3 is to 3-month overviews that I did for each of the signs. They run from April to June of this year. And obviously we're away through that period now, so the prices have been adjusted accordingly. If you think you might benefit from that, you know what to do with that link. Right now, Leo, this is the second time I'm doing your reading because a little parting kiss from Mercury retrograde was the realization that the videos that I had recorded thus far had no audio. So we're doing it again. Maybe it was a sign that they were too long, because the YouTube ran to about an hour and so did the extended. So let's see if we can't do things a little bit more swiftly this time. So let's flip it around. Tell me what's going on with Leo, please. Just move my wire out of the way. I have 3 cards for Leo. Right, there's the first one. We have the 5 of Cups in your recent past. Oh, goodness, 2. We have the 8 of Pentacles, and we have the 4 of Pentacles in your right now, your current energy. And what's coming towards Leo for May, please? We have the Chariot. I like this because it is a very much an all systems go. And we've got the World card at the bottom of the deck. Now, that's not a small deal. The world card is the end of a cycle, and whilst we might be quite familiar with ends of cycles, because you know the tarot runs in cycles, astrology runs in cycles, and there are big ones and small ones, and you know multiple cycles within bigger cycles, this is something really quite significant. Because when the world card appears, as it is here, we are tying up the loose ends of the cycle that we are in, and we are making big movements forwards, which would be represented by the Fool. Now, the Fool's not quite here yet, but it is all guns blazing towards that. Right? So let's have a look and see what these are about, and then we'll get into it. Tell me about the 5 of Cups, please. Why is that here for Leo? We have 10 of Cups and the Strength card. Tell me about the 8 of Pentacles and the 4 of Pentacles, please. Thank you. We have the 6 of Pentacles. Pretty pentacle heavy, where you are right now. 8 of Pentacles, 4 of Pentacles. Right. We have the 10 of Pentacles, interestingly enough, and we have the Knight of Swords. 2 cards that fell down here, 5 of Cups and the King of Swords. I'm going to show them to you, but I'm going to put them back in the deck, and then tell me about Chariot, please. Thank you. We have the Empress, and we have the Star. Ta-da! This is nice. Usually when something happens, because everything that happens at the tarot table, I think, is part of the reading, like, regardless of whether or not it makes it onto film and regardless of whether or not it involves a card, the fact that the very reading that I did itself is now essentially all but redundant. Often in this, in cases like this, it's because something has shifted in the intervening period, and the message that comes through here is much more relevant than the one that was coming through, you know, a week ago. Whether or not that's something that's changed for you, or whether it's something that's changed within me, is a different question altogether, and one we could to and fro on it for a while. But the important thing is that there is a big conclusion that is happening here, and I think that the title that I'd come up with for your video last, the silent one, was something to do with green shoots. And it's starting to see the green shoots of movement now. It feels like Leo has been stuck in a place for a very, very long time, and there's at the very least there was beginnings of a fracturing of that stasis that was happening. But I think it's so much more than that now. And I do think it's because there's a change of perspective that accompanies the energies of May for you. Like I said a number of times fairly recently, you want things to change, you have to change first. And there was a video that I did for you a couple of months ago. I can't remember if it was the March reading or maybe it was the February reading, that I titled something like Everything Starts in the Dark. And it was quite a difficult time. Whenever that reading was for, it was quite a difficult time because there were no solid results for any of the work that we were putting in. It's like, it was almost like we were casting it into the void over and over again, just work, effort, attention, all of these things, and nothing really meaningful coming from it. I think that is changing, and I think it's changing at a rate of knots, and I think this is why I need to re-record the video, because we don't just have green shoots. It feels a little bit more like you're growing bamboo. And each day in May that you come back to your little bamboo patch, it is considerably bigger than it was the day before, which is wonderful. I mean, to have all three of these energies here in May, all major arcana, is really quite stunning. But let's start over here first. Well, let's start with the shadow cards first. I made reference to the Fool already, and here he is. He's shown up, which I feel is validating exactly what I was thinking, that there is a huge tying up. There's a huge conclusion here where we are moving from one situation into another, and not because we put sufficient effort into changing the material circumstances, but because we ourselves have changed. And all of that work that you did into the dark, rather than it being cast into the void, feels more like the work that you do on a vegetable garden before you even put the first seed in, right? You got to clean the soil, you've got to put manure in there, you've got to ready it, you've got to get it nice and damp, you've got to dig out all of the stones. It doesn't feel like it's very rewarding in the moment, but it's got that kind of longer term consequence to it. We keep the vision in here and we do the work accordingly, because at some point we will be glad that we did. And this, I feel, is the tipping point for you now, Leo. So we start off with that Five of Cups there, which in and of itself is quite a disheartening card. It's one that can speak of grief and bereavement. It can speak to loss, actually, and there might be an aspect of loss that is of the nature of the void that we were talking about. Like, it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter how much effort I put in, it just seems to go into this yawning black hole and nothing ever comes out of it. But like this Ten of Cups and this Strength card really does feel like a keeping the faith kind of moment. Now there's kind of like a sideways route that we can take into this as well, because the law of equivalent exchange has been something that's been bouncing around in my head all morning. As things do, they just sort of pop in there. And I wonder if that's what's giving this somewhat of a bittersweet kind of feel, in so much as, in order to gain something, we must first sacrifice something else, right? There has to be an exchange of equal value. And I think this is a magical principle. Whether or not it's an actual magical principle, or whether it's just something made up for game law and whatnot. It feels to me like it's something that makes a lot of sense. But rather than the equivalent exchange being something like, handing over money for services, or handing over money for goods, or even switching out safety and security for adventure and whatnot, right? I feel like there's much more of this. And I'm thinking about this because Pluto has been really active. Obviously, moving into Aquarius as it did in January, it's never been really far away, but it's stationing retrograde this week, and it's squaring Venus. And by the time most of you see this video, this will have already happened. The equivalent exchange is kind of like offering a part of yourself up to die, right? We are exchanging what we have been in favor of what we could be. And a really important part of that is keeping the faith and being strong and all of the things that Leo's had to do, whether or not you feel like you've done it very well, because there are certainly times in the last few months where I have to say, I hit a wall and I hit it pretty fucking hard. And then I spent some time staring numbly at the wall going, ow, why did that happen? I didn't like that. I absolutely could have navigated this period better, but I am where I am now and I feel like I've got to it in the right way. The shift here is not in what is being lost, although something of ourselves is being lost. It's about creating the space for something new to come in. There's been, for a lot of you, I would say that the sacrifice is what you thought you were, the way that you saw the world, and what's best for the people around you and you as someone who has Leo as part of their identity. Now, we're kind of getting into sticky area there when we start talking about, signs as identities and whatnot. But I don't know, the Leo part of me is really quite big, and I don't mind aligning myself with that energy because it's who I want to be more of. Now, in order to release that, in order to become more of this, the law of equivalent exchange is saying, well, you have to let die the bit of you that was grief-stricken, the bit of you that focused on loss, the bit of you that focused on shame and guilt and resentment and a feeling of a lack of worth. And whether or not you've done it for the benefit of yourself or whether you've done it for the benefit of everybody around you, it's about pushing through the restrictions that your mind put up as boundaries, right? You may not pass beyond this point. You may not dream this big. You may not do this, that, and the other. It's been non-stop fucking work for you, Leo, for, 18 months now? Has it let up anywhere? I don't think it has. It's just been grind. And like I said, with very little to show for it, that is changing. Because the grind itself was where the movement needed to happen. The grind, the internal grind, was the thing that needed to change. And everything else is possible. This is completely possible. Now you've removed the obstructions that stopped you from getting there. However you've got to that point, whether you did it quickly or whether you did it slowly, or whether you can laugh, with 80,000 people on the internet and say, I'm so very fucking slow when it comes to spiritual lessons, but I am. It doesn't matter. The fact is that we're here. And from here, everything begins to change. Now, when we move into your current energy, we have the Eight of Pentacles and we have the Four of Pentacles. And I like this because where this was very much focused on loss, this is very much focused on what is worth holding on to. There's a sifting and a sorting actually going on here between these two cards. Now, the Eight of Pentacles in its usual state, we'll just talk about work, grind, mastery, just applying yourself consistently over and over again to something until you get it right. And the Four of Pentacles can sometimes speak to a need to release. Now, I feel like that's something that you understand in a way that you did not 6 months ago. I remember saying in the weekly energy readings just last week, I just cannot believe how much I changed over the course of April. And some of it was subtle and some of it really fucking wasn't at all. And if anything, I've surprised myself with it. But that's just added more fuel to the fire as far as I'm concerned. Now, when we read these two cards together, and particularly with the other cards that we have on the table, what feels to me is happening with the Four of Pentacles is it's much more about what is important enough for you to hold on to. Now, there could be a completely literal interpretation of this, whereby you're looking around at your house and all the material possessions that you own and you're getting ready to move and you're like, do I really need to take this with me? I've been trailing this around for 20 years or 25 years or 30 years or something like that. Does it really need to form part of the life that I intend to have moving forwards? For others of you, it's more around the idea of core values. It's more around the idea of what you stand for and what is important for you and how you will continue to exemplify those characteristics moving forwards, because those are taking you towards who you need to be in order to achieve your goals. Now we have the Six of Pentacles down here. We have the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, and we have the Knight of Swords. Now, this Ten of Pentacles in reverse is quite interesting because it certainly does speak to the idea of some of you literally moving house. You know, if the Ten of Pentacles is security and stability and something that has been one way for quite a long time, then when it shows up in the reverse, it's an instability. But this is a self-imposed instability that comes through potentially moving home. Some of you might be moving jobs. Some of you, whatever it is, there's some sort of shift from what has been at the very least static, if not stagnant, that is now getting shaken up, and you are stable and solid in the middle of that. But you're applying your mind to what needs to be done. Because, so here's the thing, everything feels like it's beginning to gain momentum from this point on. And I would go as far as to say that had the changes that we wish to implement occurred earlier, we would have deprived ourselves of a possibility or of the capability of adjusting our internal spaces quite as profoundly as we have. Like I said, I can barely recognize myself from the end of March to where I find myself right now. I feel completely fucking reborn. I feel like a new person altogether. And things that would have rattled my ego pretty fucking hard in the past, I just like, well, okay, that's fine, whatever. Like, I genuinely am not giving it the time of, I'm not worrying about things that I used to worry about. And equally, things that I would worry about whether I was good enough to do, or whether I actually had the capacity to do this, that and the other, I'm like, well, I'm just going to give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? I'll get it wrong. I'll fall down or something. Well, I'll just pick myself back up again. It'll be absolutely fine. You know, when we're talking about personal work making you bigger, not your problems smaller, but you bigger, so that you are more able to deal with them. I feel like most Leos are coming out of April with that sense starting to take root in them in a way that they had not truly understood before. So this Knight of Swords here, which is about the transmission of information, and that sometimes can be conversations that occur betwixt you and another person, but they absolutely can refer to the workings of your mind, right? It's how bits of your brain talks to itself or talks to each other, you know. We've got a flow of information coming, and the flow of information is around the instability, which is self-imposed and very welcome, I feel, for you. And it's environmental. The instability is environmental, whereas you, Moon in Taurus, internally are calm. And I like this very much, because as this momentum begins to build, and it is building, Leo, be under no illusions, it is building. There's something about the way that you're thinking about the situation which is also going to have to, there's going to have to be an uptick in speed, there's going to have to be an uptick in processing power. Because things move very, very quickly from here indeed. And you're going to have to keep up with it in some sort of meaningful way. Because when we get into May, I mean, Chariot, it's green lights all the way. It's a big flashing ghost sign. And this energy, I've heard a few astrologers refer to May as the best month of the year. And I think I broadly agree with that, but with the caveat that you must understand that there are other things that are also playing out in one way or another. Right? Like I said, Pluto is extremely active at the moment, and where Pluto is doing anything, usually there is revelation of deep truths, abuses of power, you know, power struggles, whether it's on an institutional level, whether it's on a global level, or whether it's on a micro level. So, and particularly even in the week that I'm recording this, there's a Venus square to Pluto. That can make things quite uncomfortable. But ultimately, there is a truth that is emerging. And it's important for us not to shy away from it. Now, the reason why I'm kind of going on about this is that I feel that those people who are less tuned into the trauma of what is going on outside of themselves, but are instead holding on to the dream, holding on to the vision, holding on to what it is that they have been working towards for such a long time. These are the people who get to ride the wave of May. The more invested you are in a world that is seemingly, at the very least, fraying at the edges, if not in complete freefall at the moment, the more difficult it is going to be for you to get on a metaphorical surfboard or on the backs of two geese and actually start riding that forwards. You know, the Chariot is about determination, it's about victory, it's about setting goals and achieving them. It's a very strong, it's indicative of strong self-knowledge that allows you to keep moving forwards regardless of what might come up. And things probably will come up. What's different is the way that you choose to deal with them. Problems are always going to exist. Nothing is ever going to run perfectly. And you are, frankly, delusional if you think that they will. Nevertheless, with the right attitude, all of the things that you are looking to create are now coming into some, not just coming into your awareness, but like there are material moves forwards that can be made this month. Shit's going to be coming up right, left and centre. I mean, there are plenty of flashpoints that are, you know, currently in existence in the world, and they're problematic. With the Venus square to Pluto, with relationships, we could see some uncomfortable truths starting to come up, and hopefully not, but some of you might see or have an awareness of power struggles, power battles, things like that. I would advise always step back from those and just make sure that you're reacting to what you think you're reacting to, and not something that is a deep-seated trauma within you that's trying to rattle free so that it can be released. This Empress card is wonderful because we have, what do we have now? We have the Sun, we have Venus, Jupiter and Uranus, all in the sign of Taurus at the moment. One of my favourite things in the world is growing vegetables. I love it. And in the 20 odd years that I've been doing it, the joy of the moment where the seed actually breaks the surface has never left me. I feel like a god when my little line of peas comes up. Right? It's quite sad, but it gives me absolute inexplicable joy. From that point on, every bit of work that I put into preparing that bed is suddenly worth it, because it's not just, oh, I'm waiting for something to break the surface. It's there, I can see it, it is growing, it's getting stronger every day, and now I care for it, now I nurture it, now I take the energy of the Empress and I am grateful for it, and I pour even more attention into it, right? It's that creative energy that we're talking about. Now, obviously, I'm talking metaphorically, but whatever you've been working on, the Taurian energy is saying, spring has arrived on your idea. Spring has arrived on your dream. Now, you have to maintain it. And these three big major energy cards are about the dream, but made real. And the Chariot card here is that point of integration, you being the point of integration between these two things that bring them together to make it happen. I did the weekly videos, so these will be the ones running from the 29th of April to the 5th of May. And the Tower was right in the centre of the cards that I picked up there, and I spoke a lot about a little keyword that was a key phrase that was at the bottom of that card, which is material and spiritual colliding. Now, we have a kind of material, we have a kind of spiritual here. We have the dream. We have the goal. We have the aspiration. That's never gone anywhere. That's why we've been grinding for so long. But here's the point where it all becomes worth it. So what am I saying to you, Leo? I'm saying you've reached the end of a chapter. Things are closing out. All of your energy this month goes into tying up the loose ends and truly getting ready to be the Fool. Not just channel the energy of the Fool, but be the Fool by the end of May, because you're about to catapult into a whole new life. And everything that you've done thus far will prove to be worth it in very, very short order. This is a really good month. I would say, Leo, this is probably one of the best months that you've had in a very long time, over a year. Easy, probably longer. And whatever comes up around that, aside that, in front of that, behind that, anything that may feel even remotely issue-based, there's nothing that can't be solved with the right attitude, with the right perspective. And I would be very, very aware of keeping both of those front and center. Be the balance between everything that's going on this month, and just lean into it, throw yourself into it. Chocks away, as they would say in the old books. There's literally nothing stopping you here now, apart from you. And if you're ready to start moving, if you're ready not to be static anymore, then it's time to throw yourself into it. Be bold, be courageous, and go. I love it. Right, I'm going to go to the extended now. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Circle, or you can do that on Vimeo. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. But if this is where we part ways, then that's fine. I'm so happy for you, Leo. I really am. It's been a bit of a trip, right? It gets better from here. At least in terms of your dream, your goals, your aspirations, whatever it is you've been trying to achieve, this month rockets you closer to that. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.